record. Okay. Oh, so sorry, just before we go live, yesterday's webinar, my internet crashed right in the middle of a webinar. So if it does, I've already primed Liv to ping up her video, and she'll kind of go into facilitator mode and just manage the Q&A and keep going, and I'll come back on as quickly as I can. Yeah, that's not what you need. Right, we're going live in now. We're there. We're live. Hello, everybody. We're live, and our first attendees are already rocking through the door. Good God, people have been waiting for us, people, honestly. So we're already up to 22, 23. Here we go. All the numbers are coming in. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to, what do we call it? Crisis Mindset. We had this whole debate, didn't we, as a group around whether we should call it Crisis Mindset. And then we were in such a massive rush to try and get all the design of the graphics out. Thank you for that, Becky, by the way. We just kind of stayed with it. So, but we didn't want it to have negative connotations or anything like that. But, you know, we are in a bit of a crisis, I guess, I suppose. So, okay, so numbers are ramping up. Please, those of you that have joined already, there is a chat window, so get chatting. I think I've already asked a question. It'd be great to know where our audience is from, so let us know in the chat. And if you've got any specific questions that you want to ask the panel, I'll get everyone to introduce themselves in just a while so that you know where their expertise and experience is. Stick that into the Q&A box. So Olivia's on the call. She'll be managing the chat for us. But if you've got any specific questions that you want to ask the panel as we get going, then please put that in the Q&A. So places, oh, so we've got someone from India already, guys, so far. Nova Scotia in Canada. I want someone from Canterbury. I just want someone from, hi, I'm from Canterbury, just down the road.
Folkestone,
yeah, Folkestone, yeah, exactly. Where else have we got? Bolton, is that Bolton? Goodness me. Okay.
We just had a Faversham. That's where I am.
Yeah, Rochester. Oh, the Kent crowd are coming in now. Here we go. The sunny Wirral. It's sunny in Maidstone as well. Yeah. Portugal. Hey, love it. South America, Uruguay.
Bienvenidos a todos.
Nice, Joe. Very, very nice. Okay, so we'll just wait for some more people to come in. We'll go live. We'll start talking in a couple of minutes. We're up to 111 people in so far, so there's a few to join us still at the moment. So, sunny Reading. Is it sunny everywhere? I thought isn't it horrible and nasty in Scotland?
You mean the weather, I take it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did, Rob. Yeah.
All these people dropping off from Scotland now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, I said that on a webinar the other day. Actually, I said something about, I'm not sure the American sort of way of presenting kind of carries over into the UK. And so, what have you got against Americans? So you've got to be so careful when you're on these things. I haven't got anything against Americans, because I've just seen someone said Indiana. They're from Indiana. Love Americans. Love Americans. So okay, 135. Well, we'll kick off literally in 1 minute. So if you've got any questions that you want to ask the panel, then please, as I say, stick those into the Q&A, and I'll get to those. We're going to go through some of the questions that we've already had sent in prior to the webinar. But first, let me just share my screen. We were having a debate around, just before we went live, around whether I should share this or not. And I decided that I was going to do it. So I don't know. We've probably all disappeared now into your. So has anybody read this? I'm sure they probably have, actually. I'm in the middle of reading this. This was actually part of our book club, Liv and I's book club, which we kind of got into about 3 weeks of and then gave up on. So I've started again. But in there, in the early chapters, he talks about this thing called the hedgehog concept. And I can just really relate to this. And I think especially at the moment when we're in this sort of crisis that we're in with the coronavirus, because I think we're all kind of madly thinking, if we're in business, we're all madly thinking about, well, what can I do to do something different? How can I make some cash and build some revenue and all the rest of it? And the hedgehog concept really kind of keeps you grounded, because what he says, what's his name? Jim Collins, isn't it? Is it Jim Collins? Jim Collins. What Jim says is that actually the best way to stay true to yourself in business is to be in the middle of these three circles. And so it's all about what you're passionate about, but what drives your economic engine, and also what can you be the best in the world at. Personally, I wanted to be a videographer, but I'm never going to be the best in the world at that. So you kind of go off sometimes in these tangents. And I think this is just a great thing to start with, to say, actually stay true to what you're good at, and don't necessarily go off. I mean, Joe was laughing at me earlier because I said, you know, what would be dreadful if a graphic designer wanted to become a plumber, but you get what I mean there. So anyway, moving swiftly on. Shall we just do a quick intro? I'm going to go from the top left on my screen, which is Terry. So if we just do a quick intro to who you are and maybe a pearl of wisdom or something like that, and then we'll get into some of the questions.
Hey.
Terry.
Well, hello. My name's Terry Hewitt. Hello, the world. I'm looking at the people that are coming on, and it definitely is a very diverse group of people, isn't it? My background is I've been in advertising and marketing for about 30 years. Ran an agency and owned an agency called Think Zest. Sold that over a year ago. Set up with Mark Robinson, who you'll hear from in a moment, Copper Bottom Investments. It's not just about getting monetary investments for companies. A lot of the work that we do is change management, and making sure that we are investing in people, not just investing with money. So hopefully we can help you with some of your questions today.
Super. Joe.
Hi everyone, Joe Espana. So I run Performance Equations. It's a organizational effectiveness consultancy. So we look at organizational capability. Have you got the right people in the right place doing the right things? My background is large multinationals in operational and strategic roles, and been running my own business for 23 years. So got a lot of sector experience. So hopefully we'll be able to answer some of your questions.
Fantastic. Terry, I forgot to ask you actually, how many recessions have you worked through now and come out the other side?
So if you take the 3-day week back in the 70s, this will be the 5th one.
That shows you.
I thought I'd seen everything until this.
I know, exactly. Mr. Dando.
Hi, yeah, well, nice to see everybody. So I'm Rob Dando. I'm a co-founder at an agency called Finally. I've been doing kind of digital for about 20 years now. Started off, left school, opened an internet cafe in Canterbury when they were rocking, and then got done by 4G and data mobile phones, but and always been building websites and technology. So, you know, anything from that side, and marketing, hopefully myself and Becky should have you covered.
Excellent. Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, hello. My name is Mark Robinson. As Terry said, I'm part of Copper Bottom Investments. My history has been in business, both private and public, over the last 35 years. Historically running a stock exchange listed company. More recently, I'm focused on helping startups and early stage companies, typically in the tech sector, and more often than not in the sustainability arena. Just helping them get off the ground really and start through the scale up process.
Fantastic. And without Harry for the first time ever, Becky Sims.
Hi, yes. So I'm Becky. I'm founder of Reflect Digital. We're a digital marketing agency employing about 30 staff. So definitely feeling some of the struggles that we're all feeling right now. So definitely can share some ideas on that. But yeah, we specialize in designing and building websites, online marketing, and helping you be found digitally, really. So similar to Rob. So between us both, hopefully we'll have you covered today.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Carolyn.
Thank you. Hey, so I'm Carolyn. So I'm the founder of Evolvely, which is a culture, leadership and coaching consultancy. My background, so I've worked in learning and organisational development for 16 years now, quite a long time. And I was a former people director. So my background is in mainly tech and travel. Today, I mainly work with startups and scale-ups, and I'll partner founders to build people and culture strategies, and then work with large organisations to deliver leadership and wellbeing programs, as well as executive coaching. So anything to do with people and supporting your teams and how you kind of protect your culture and all that kind of lovely stuff. I'm here to support you.
Super, super. Okay, so we've got some questions coming into the Q&A. So just for those of you that have just joined us, please get involved in the chat. Olivia is managing the chat and will chat to you. If you've got specific questions, and we've already got some coming through, then can you just stick those into the Q&A section, and we will come to those. But first, we're just going to kick off with some of the questions that we've had come in prior to going live. And I think, Carolyn, this one's yours. Adam asks, we operate in the business travel sector, which is currently at a standstill. I look after a sales team and I'm facing challenges around keeping them focused. Any tips on this would be great.
Yeah, sure. And that is a challenging time, right? Particularly with sales teams, because they're used to kind of being on the go all the time and thrive on kind of having big objectives, big goals to kind of follow. So I totally get that. I think it's interesting as a question, because I would say it's not really about motivation. I would say right now it's about focusing on showing empathy, supporting them, kind of enabling them as much as you can to still support the business in any way that's possible. So how can you offer them kind of support and be there and show them that you're kind of in it together? So I would say, think about how you can reprioritize what they're working on. So, you know, everything's kind of topsy-turvy at the moment. So how can you come together and ask them what they feel the priorities are right now? And that could be doing something like looking back at things that you haven't been able to have the time to get to previously and start working on those things if they're still relevant. It could be something as simple as like looking at your systems, your processes, and kind of the things we never get to, and to kind of get that stuff in order. It could be how they can support the rest of the business, how they can get involved in other projects and other ways just to help their colleagues kind of feel supported. The other quick thing I would say is that if you're not already doing weekly stand-ups and talking through your priorities, I would do that. Generally, it's quite good to do it like on a Monday, kind of say what your top 3 priorities are, check in again on a Friday and see how you've been progressing. And I would add to it, if you've got the time and capacity, is just do a daily check-in, like nothing major. You're not there to solve problems for them necessarily, but just to show them you're there to support them. So just give them a forum, a space to share how they're feeling right now as well. And I think for any leader, that's the kind of best you can do with your people at the moment, is just to be honest, be open, be vulnerable where you can, and be really transparent about what's happening.
Yeah.
Mark,
yeah.
Can I come in just for a second
based
on what Caroline just said? I'm working with a startup business called Jiminy, which is basically designed for running sales teams remotely. So these guys have systems in place that you can check what people are saying to clients and help train. It records all the conversations and helps with the training. So, and the other thing was, obviously, when this crisis started, this was exactly what this company had been set up for. So if your question, the person who asked the question wants to have a look, go onto Jiminy's website and have a look at what they're doing. It could be perfect for them.
Yeah, yeah. We're doing a lot.
Just one further point, just to support Carolyn here, is you think about your own mindset as a leader here, because our typical scenario is we want to fix things for people and always have answers and solutions. The problem is that currently, and in the last few weeks, you know, we're trying to make 100% decisions with probably only about 30% info. And the issue, particularly with sales teams, I think there are probably other functions that probably operate this way, is that their world has changed radically. So step number one, as Caroline suggested, is don't speak, but listen a lot more, and just allow people to sort of vent a little bit, because it's only then that they can sort of start maybe contributing a little bit more and saying, okay, well, this is what's possible. Here's how we might reorganize ourselves, etc., etc. Yeah. And jointly problem solve. There's nothing more important, I think, than allowing people to feel that they're contributing in some way. So a joint problem solving conversation about what ought to be focused on, how should we work together, the fact that we're not actually physically together and we can't go and visit our clients, you know, physically. So what is possible, but listen a lot more than talk.
Yeah, totally.
How are you doing it in your team, Becky?
Yeah, so having micro teams every single day, so all of the teams within the business are meeting up every single morning and having a chat together. That doesn't have to be a work chat. It can be a how you feeling chat. What did we hear on the news last night? What are we worried about? And then it also is a bit of a work chat as well where needed. But I think also what I was just thinking of there from a sales team point of view, I think it's giving them some kind of new target that's not to do with sales. So giving them something to focus on, because salespeople thrive on targets and winning and competitiveness. So whether that's, I mean, we've got in our Slack group, we've got a step challenge every day because everyone's stuck at home. I want to make sure people are still finding time to go out and be active. So actually at the end of each day, everyone's taking a photo of their watch where they are. And sometimes it's low steps and sometimes it's higher steps, but it's something to be competitive about that's different, that isn't necessarily work related, but gives them something.
Yeah.
I think in my experience as well, everyone needs, like, if you're leading the business, the temptation is to, not panic, but you want to try it and you want to make things better as soon as you can. And the danger is that you start launching into it while all of your employees are in shock. So they're trying to come to terms with the situation the way that it is. You're trying to pull them off in different directions and come up with a whole bunch of initiatives, which just gets it just creates a really confused situation. So I think, with the benefit of having gone through not as many of these as Terry has, but I've been through a couple. The real learning that I went through was, don't try and rescue people. Don't try and rescue the situation all in a day. You need to let them express their feelings. They need to go through a whole psychological kind of a psychological process of coming to terms with the new reality. And then you start painting the picture of, this is going to, when we start to emerge from this, we need to emerge bigger and stronger. And this is, let's now get some ideas out on how, what that's going to look like and what we've got to do to get it there.
Yeah. I fell into that trap last week, actually, and went into immediate, what ideas can I start generating? And then we got to the end of the week and everyone was kind of wired, it was just way too much too quickly. But that's the way our brains work, I guess. Rob, from your perspective, you already manage a remote team, don't you? So have you changed anything since this has happened?
I think where we've obviously, the team is remote or can be remote, it's never been kind of forced upon the entirety at once. So there's always been that divide where, there might be 10 at home and 14, 15 in the office, or different methods. And I think what we've seen with us all being at home is like Becky was saying, we're having more catch-ups, we're having micro team meetings, so each department's kind of catching up more. Slack is just off the hook. Like, my phone just is not stopping at the moment over here. So I think, using technology is great. Zoom's been perfect for businesses. I think Slack has kind of alleviated most internal emails for us. We pretty much live in Slack now, and exactly that, like we're doing an activity challenge, or have been, even before this, March was our activity challenge, so we're kind of keeping that going and sharing on our WhatsApp group and getting involved in great initiatives like last night, the NHS clap. We all got on board with that together as well. So I think it's just about staying in touch from work, but also just remembering that we're all humans, and that if we were in the office together, we'd have that chat about, what did you watch last night, what was on Netflix, and making sure that those talks and those conversations are still occurring.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're doing that actually on our Zoom calls, and then surreptitiously I hit the record button and create a video out of it and put it out for everyone to see. Especially when Meg starts talking about her eyebrow growth. I don't know if anyone saw that video, but it was quite funny. Okay, so we've got the next question is from Donna, which is about finance and kind of the support that she can get. I'm very conscious, though, guys, that we've got a quite global audience here. So, and we're a UK panel, so we might be talking about this from a very sort of UK perspective. I suppose general advice around finance that may not be just UK related would be really useful, and what people can do in terms of managing cash flow and all the rest of it. Who wants to pick that one up?
Yeah, I'll pick that up. Sorry, or Mark, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go on, jump in.
Only because I've been through this more times than you have. The secret, as Mark said in one of his earlier comments, is not to panic. But when I say don't panic, that doesn't mean say don't do anything. You're in a situation now where the most important thing you need to do is control costs. The chances are, if you're running a business, you're not getting paid by your clients. It's because their clients aren't paying them. So you need to make decisions based around fact. And if your cash flow is drying up, you need to get onto that and make sure that you're doing the things that helps your business survive. If you do the right things now, quickly, you will come out the other end. That also means taking advice from people that really understand what they're doing. So use your accountant, speak to your bank manager, and make sure you access all the funds that you can to keep your business going. Because what if you leave it too late, that help may not be there. So my advice is act fast, but keep your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd add into that communication is communication is essential. It's no good going into the bunker making decisions to protect cash. It's got to be protected the way that Terry has said, but it really makes sense to communicate with you. Whether you've got all of your bills will need to be paid sooner or later, and with the help that governments are giving the businesses in their economy. Most businesses should come out of this okay. So, what you want to be doing is speaking with the people. If you're going to be delaying payments, if you're going to be stopping payments, you should be talking to the people that's going to impact. So at least they can start to understand what's going to be happening in the future, and they can start planning. The worst thing is that no one communicates with each other, and there's a lot of suspicion. And when push comes to shove, though, the companies that you communicate best with are the ones that are going to help you out of this.
Yeah. At the end of this, you're going to need suppliers and you're going to need clients. And how you work with them now will determine the shape and size of your business at the other end. Mark's right. Communication is the key. Talk to everyone. Tell them what you're doing. Be understanding. If it means that you have to spread payment terms with clients, then do it. But you're going to need them at the end.
Mm.
Can I just add to that? If I may, Terry made a really, really good point there about there is and there will be light at the end of the tunnel, and for us to be thinking that longer term as well. So currently I'm working with 3 companies, multinationals, and it's amazing how even multinationals where you think the leadership teams have been through similar situations in the past, just as Terry, and have learned. And yet what I'm finding is that it's really clamped down on absolutely everything. Now, there's obviously cash is king, and you've got to protect it, but there'll be some things where you will overreact. There'll be some things, obviously, no recruitment, no new initiatives, this kind of thing. But the notion of the ongoing communication and collaboration with your supply chain and the customer chain is super important, because clamping down on absolutely everything is not going to help you, say, a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road. So it's judicious management of your cash flow.
I'd just like to say, I think, finance, when people talk about finance, obviously, generally they think about the top management and dealing with suppliers and creditors. The one thing I'd add into that, working with a team, is to try and be as transparent as you can with your team. We have 29 employees in the business who know what the situation is. They're intelligent people. They can understand there's problems in the world. So I think it's about keeping them in the loop. We actually went through a presentation just talking about what had actually happened with our customers at the time. What was going on, and I think that was valuable to them. There's a kind of true belief that we're all in this together, and we're not hiding anything. And yes, we're trying to do deals with creditors and suppliers and everybody, but the staff and the team members, they understand that as well. So I think as transparent as you can be, telling them figures, telling them stuff, it really helps them from a mental point of view as well.
Yeah, totally. One of my clients did this recently. They put an email out to their team, obviously being remote, but also published it as well. And actually they put, what the current situation was, what the best case and worst case scenarios would be. And I think sometimes knowing what the worst case is can be quite helpful. And it was weird that there was apprehension around sending that out, but when the team saw what the worst case could be, they were prepared for it a bit more. But also they shared information on what their teams could be doing for themselves as well, around like pausing their mortgages and other kind of ways to get financial support outside of business as well. So not just wearing our business hats, but how can I make sure my people know what to do in their personal situations as well, as best as possible.
Yeah, brilliant. Super. Thanks, guys. Becky, I think this one's over to you. It's quite a long question, so I'll go for it. My question is more of wanting to get a general viewpoint. We are a PR agency operating in the field of toys and games and kids and family brands. At this time, a lot of clients are putting budgets on hold and things are tough, as for a lot of us. It is uncharted territory and we're having to look at things differently. Part of our business gives us access to a network of teachers and parents via a learning hub where brands can promote directly. And right now this could be much needed as people are looking for content ideas which are downloadable. My issue is, where is the line drawn between people thinking you are profiteering from the situation? Part of me thinks A, ignore them, I need to survive, but the other part thinks B, launching a new package of sales in a time like this will be seen as completely mercenary.
Yeah, I think everyone's pivoting right now, and going back to the hedgehog part at the start, we need to make sure we're pivoting in the right way and something that's in our skill sets. But I think if you've got that pivot available to you, you've definitely got to take it. Whether you make it chargeable immediately or you use it as a brand building opportunity, I mean, that's a huge opportunity. You look at Joe Wicks, the body coach. I mean, he's getting over 1 million people on in the morning doing his PE classes. I've seen so many people posting about them. All the adults are doing them as well. I mean, from a brand perspective, he's more of a household name than he was before COVID-19. And actually, he's not profiteering on it. He will see profits come from it long term, but actually he's just doing something that's really meaningful and actually helping the country come together. So for me, I think it's using the opportunities you can, potentially holding back on it being a paid for thing if you can, and using that as something as a follow on, because people are changing their habits now, and some of these habits will stay longer than just COVID-19. So if you can do something that then has a lasting change and people use your clients' brands going forward from a digital perspective, then that's only got to be a good thing.
I think following on, it's about also how you're saying things. You've only got to look at some of the highlighted examples of some of the companies that have possibly gone about this the wrong way, and some that have gone about it the right way, and the difference is astronomical. People looking to boycott companies and boycott brands in the future. They've come out of this pretty badly. So I think, like, the whole profiteering aspect is obviously something that's coming up even with our clients regularly. Like, nobody wants to jump and try and look like they're making money, but kind of also we've got to consider that the world has to continue in some form or another, and we are all going to come out of this at the end. And so it's more around kind of changing our mindset to what's the situation now and how can we deal with that now, and what's that marketing message, what's that message. As Becky says, if that's not chargeable, if there's things you can do, we always believe in giving as opposed to selling anyway. But I think that advice can go out there like Joe's done, build that brand, because people will remember those positive people, and they're certainly going to remember the negative brands.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would say, like you said, the mindset pieces that I would reframe that, what the lady said, and reframe it around how else can I keep serving my existing and future clients, and actually think about what do they need right now, regardless of what's happening around us. What do they need, and how can I keep doing that? Because we always have to run our businesses, and like you say, whether it's paid or not, but just how can I keep that service mentality going as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And if you are doing it for free, I guess just to add in, make sure you've got some way of data capturing those people. So actually, although you're doing it for free, you're building something for yourself that you can use later down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving on. A question from Russell. How do I have a crisis mindset approach to starting up a business? I haven't started up yet, but what signs should I look for to know when the right time is to launch it? I think, Mark, you responded to this when we put the questions round.
Yeah, I like the question. I mean, obviously, it's going to depend on what sector, what the business is, what it's doing, what it's trying to do. But in very general terms, I think it's fairly simple. At the moment, business is reeling from the shock of what's gone on. So everything is shrinking. The market's shrinking. But that doesn't last forever. So it's whether it recovers in a V shape or whether it's a kind of a prolonged U shape, no one really understands, and it's going to depend upon how the whole medical situation sorts itself out. But I think if it was me, I would be getting everything prepared so that as soon as I can see the first green shoots, I'm ready to go. You don't want to go too early, because you may be launching into the whole maelstrom of the worst of the markets. But if you can just wait until you see sentiment starting to improve, and that's a feeling rather than necessarily looking at what's being written in the papers or you're reading on the news. I think if you just see, get a feeling that actually we're starting to come out of it, then that's the time to go, because the momentum, you want as much momentum as you can. So get in very early as you possibly can, on the upslope.
Yeah, super. Okay, I'm just going to go to some live questions now. John asks, I think this is really pertinent actually. I'm going to ask the question I asked previously about convincing your directors to support content creation and take the attitude, just start and get better as you go. My bosses have told me to stop content, and I literally had just started after getting inspired by, I think, one of our webinars that we had done actually. So I mean, I'll chip in and just answer that quickly. Just go and go now. Don't wait to be bloody amazing at something. There's no bloody point, because I'm not amazing at it. You get better the more you do of this stuff, and just start. And especially if you're doing it on LinkedIn, a lot of the LinkedIn content is like yesterday's newspaper. It doesn't last that long. You've probably got a lifespan of LinkedIn content for 3-4 days max, and then it's history. And from convincing your director's point of view, I get really passionate about this because it's a subject very close to my heart, because you see all this shit on LinkedIn all the time that is basically vanilla content that no one gives a crap about. And so if your directors can't see that, you need to show them what's happening on LinkedIn now, and the brands that are really forging a path forwards by producing content that is left field, that is funny, that is a little bit irreverent, because that is the stuff that is making waves out there at the moment. And so I think we posted up one of our webinars on YouTube actually, where I get really passionate about this subject. So I'll send you the link, John, or email me, mark@redsprout.co.uk. I'll send you the link to that YouTube video, because I get really vicious. But yeah, God, go. If there is ever an opportunity, I think, to start building, I mean, some people don't like the whole thing about personal brand. So let's call it reputation. Let's build a reputation on social media. Now is the time to do that, especially as Becky and Rob have been saying, around give, don't sell. You can, like Joe Wicks, you can create a brand that actually, with a bit of long-term thinking, will come good later down the road. I will shut up because this is not mine now. Does anyone else want to chip into that conversation?
I can give you an example from the past, which was back in the 80s when we had another recession. I was working in the semiconductor industry, in publishing, so selling advertising space. The top 10 manufacturers in the world at the time were American. They stopped promoting because of the recession. They cut all their budgets. The Japanese carried on promoting, and they took the number 1 to 10 spot up when the recession was ended in terms of supplying semiconductors. So if you stop promoting, you stop selling. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And I think, like, although you said, Mark, content on LinkedIn has a 3 or 4 day lifespan, content in other places certainly doesn't. And, often people don't have the time to generate that content, the evergreen content that's going to live around, it's going to be there for SEO value and things. And actually now might be the perfect opportune time to invest into generating some content, getting it optimized on your site, on your blogs or wherever. And that's going to be there to support you for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
I think the other thing to say here, sorry, Becky, is going back to the question about finance, is, convincing your director that you can produce content at very low cost or no cost is part of the story here, because you've got to have presence and still manage the finance. So you can do it. You've got to be creative. You've got to think of different ways and different platforms, but stopping is not a good idea right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, Becky.
And that's all right. I was just going to say, I think the bit to also show your directors that you really understand is who your audience are and how you're going to create content that is for them. It doesn't have to be for the masses. It needs to be for your specific audience. So we have a real interest in human psychology and how to kind of get underneath that. So maybe taking some time out now, while maybe in your business you've got a bit more time, and maybe some of your customers have got team members that have got a bit more time, that you could actually do some research and ask them some questions and get to know them a bit more, so that you can be sure that the content that you are producing is exactly the type of content that they want. It's so easy to put together a Google survey and to share that. So yeah, I'd just say make sure that what you're producing is what your audience wants.
There's also something to add, which is slightly kind of taking it slightly off subject, but I'm going to do it anyway, which is there was a travel company that obviously ceased, stopped operating. And actually what they looked at is how else could they keep providing content that was useful to their customers, to travelers. And actually they showed them where to find things like free virtual tours of museums in Italy and all that kind of lovely stuff. So they kept that holiday feeling alive and still give them hints and tips and things they could do. And actually saying, travel will come back, we will be able to travel again, so watch on your vision board for next year, and just various things. And they were prompting conversations to help people still feel good about wanting to travel and still being able to explore the world, but virtually. And I thought that was really interesting. They did that and they got really good response from that as well. They couldn't sell anything, they weren't trying to, but they were just connecting with the feeling around travel still and what that gets for us.
It's front of mind. They were keeping their brand alive, which is very important.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a question from a recruiter, so I'll take this, guys. My question would be, I work on my own. What can I be doing proactively now that all of my roles have been put on hold? I've looked at all my costs and given notice on my office, etc., as can work from home. Do I try and build a talent pool now for the vacancies that were put on hold, or do I wait and see if and when they come back on? Build a talent pool. Build a talent pool. If there's one thing that we can be doing right now as recruiters, because we haven't got many clients on board with live vacancies, is massively talking to candidates and getting ready for when it does come back. So build those relationships with candidates. If there's one thing the recruitment industry is renowned for, and it always gets shouted at for, is the shocking relationship that we usually have with candidates, because the clients pay the bills. So we're not really talking to a huge amount of clients at the moment. Spend that time buried in just talking to candidate after candidate after candidate would be my view. It's what we're doing. We're spending pretty much all of our days now just talking to people, finding out what their situation is and getting ready for when we see those first green shoots coming back in, when it all starts to lift off.
From an employer point of view as well, I'd recommend that if you've got time, start having those conversations. Like, you can say, I don't have a role currently, and obviously we're in a bit of a difficult situation, but I know prior to COVID-19, this was the biggest growth area of my business. Therefore, let's talk to people that are the right people for those roles and start building some relationships so that you've got them ready to recruit when everything bounces back.
And the other thing to do, top tip here, is invite some of your clients on a webinar. No-brainer. So sorry, that was a cheap shot. So what else have we got going on here? I think we've pretty much covered all the questions that we had in beforehand. So let's just have a look down here. I seem to be losing motivation with every knockback I receive. This is someone called Rebecca. Oh, sorry, there's an earlier question. I work in the mental health support sector, mainly promoting employee assistance programs. I've found that in the last two to 3 weeks, mental health within the workplace has taken a back seat, which is a huge shame, as it's something so she carries on, which is something I'm hugely passionate about, but seem to be losing motivation with every knockback I receive. How can I tackle this?
So she's receiving knockback herself, and actually getting it top of the agenda, having people focus on it, I guess, is what they're saying. I say, what small things can you do in terms of, if there isn't a top-down kind of support to look at and recognise mental health? I think sometimes there's fear. People don't know how to help, and so they kind of step back and hide from it. What can you do at a more micro level? So what can you do at a team level? And it goes back to, even when I said simple things like having a check-in. So when you have the check-in, it's not to fix people, it's not to say, and here's a solution, but again, feeling heard, feeling supported, I think is important. There's also lots of other tools and companies out there that are offering free support as well, that you can guide people to outside of the employee support system. So one of my clients is a mental health company, and they're offering free Zoom calls like this to people. And I can share those details kind of not on this webinar, but after, if you're interested. But there's lots of ways and places we could be pointing people to. I also think it's important to talk about the research and also have a conversation with more of the senior managers around the impact of not dealing with mental health and what that means, not just from an individual point of view, but also, if you want to go down that route, the business point of view as well, around productivity, around performance, around engagement, around everything, as well as actually just caring about our people and knowing that our people actually are our business. So how do we just start there and make that time? It doesn't have to be big initiatives. It can be just checking in to start.
Yeah, I'd like to support that. If the question is about oneself, so how do I build up my resilience against all these knockbacks one after the other? I think the starting point is to acknowledge them, is to say, first of all, this current situation isn't going to be forever, and find whatever it takes to build your own resilience and ability to deal with sort of the unknown that we're working with at the moment. And there's a lot of research around this, around some really basic things that you could be doing in terms of recharging your battery, so to speak. So, some key things around self-maintenance. Get a lot of sleep. Sleep is the #1 killer of people making really good decisions and be able to think strategically. Nutrition. Think about, don't just sit at home wallowing in stuff and eating crisps. Exercise. We're still, and I'm sure in different territories the rules will be different, but we still are able to get out at least for an hour and get some exercise or do something at home. And the other thing is, there's a lot of stuff around mindfulness, but for me, the package is about being kind to yourself, is saying, okay, I'm acknowledging I'm really low at the moment. I'm getting knockback after knockback, but actually it won't be forever. And I need to sort of just be kind to myself, recognize how I'm feeling, and find different strategies, coping mechanisms, etc., that enable me to become more resilient and able to get out of this situation mentally.
I think journaling as well. So if we're going to go, if we're kind of
journaling is a really good one.
Right. So in just writing down how you're feeling, again, without any expectation, any judgment around it, just writing down how am I feeling today, and encourage. So I obviously do a lot of work around wellbeing with my clients, and I encourage them to journal daily, even if they look at 3 things they're grateful for, 3 things that went well today. And for some, finding 3 can be hard. And if they find one, and that's okay. But looking for those little pockets of joy and the things that I can control, rather than taking on all the stress of things that I cannot control right now. And I think social media has a big role to play within that, right, as well, and what we're consuming. So being really careful about how and what we consume outside of our world as well, just to protect ourselves and put some boundaries in place as well.
Okay, I can give just one tip on this, to follow on this idea of journaling. One of the things that happens in sort of crisis moments like now is, for some people, you have a sense of helplessness, what I can't do. So draw 3 concentric circles. This is from the Stephen Covey stuff. If you imagine 3 circles, if it's a target, in the center circle, you write, in my control. In the middle circle is things I can influence. And in the outer circle, stuff which is completely out of my control. And then journal that. So, think really hard, what actually is within my control? And the 2 fundamental things that are totally in your control is how you think and how you behave. And there may be other things as well, which are practical things around running the business and everything else. They'll be in control. Other things you'll be able to influence to a certain degree. And there'll be a whole bunch of things that you cannot do anything about, like the COVID-19 situation. So it's about managing our own responses to that. And that's a really simple tip. It takes 10 minutes, makes you feel a lot better.
Okay, we've got so many questions, guys. So let's do a bit of short fire. Ben, I'm coming to you next, then Carolyn, then Tori. So Ben asks, how can you still be seen from a brand perspective when being drowned in an influx of activity on LinkedIn that wasn't previously there pre-corona? Oh yeah, so true. Everyone is producing content like it's going out of fashion at the moment. So what does the panel think? Nothing.
Okay, who's going to take this?
Love it.
I think, there's other platforms, obviously LinkedIn is probably picked up a lot, but as I said, it's about, as Becky mentioned, it's about finding your audience, targeting. So we obviously build persona documents for all our clients. And, if you know the personas of those people that you want to be reaching, then create the content for them and put it in the places that they're going to be. Not all of LinkedIn is full of people and it's a great platform and I love it. That isn't necessarily where your correct personas are all going to be. They're going to be in different places. So just make sure that you're putting the content in the right place.
I would also just add to that, actually. So I preach this when I do a lot of talks about LinkedIn. There's a 3-tier strategy to LinkedIn, and it should go in this order, actually. Connect, engage, post. And connect, so build your connections and go and proactively connect with people. Don't just send random. Please don't send me another effing sales message as soon as I say yes. Please don't do that, especially at the moment. You're just going to get deleted. But connect, go out, find a mutual interest, comment on some of the work they've done, comment on a post they've done, connect with them on a personal level. And then the most important part of LinkedIn, not post, is engage, because the algorithm, we always think these algorithms are these amazingly complicated things. They're actually not at the end of the day. If you engage with someone else's post, the algorithm thinks you're friends. When you post something, where's it going to post your content? Right at the top of your friends' newsfeed. Engage, get involved, have conversations, get things started. And then when you're posting, your content goes to the top. It's really quite simple for that one. Okay, Carolyn. Carolyn Simpson. I'm due to, this is such an important question. I'm due to have a new recruit starting in the next 3 weeks. I offered the job before the lockdown. I'm now facing the prospect of onboarding her remotely. Does anyone have any tips for doing this?
We've just onboarded 2 people, one in lockdown, one the week before lockdown. So yeah, so because it was prior to actually lockdown being announced, we did spend a day with each of them. So because the thing is, you need to give them a laptop and things like that. So there's got to be a reasonable way that you can pass on physical bits to them. But then we've just made sure that we're checking in daily with video calls. We've asked them to we use Slack. So on Slack, we've got the whole team, all 30 of them. We've said, right, go and set up, first of all, with your immediate team, go and have a call with each of them. And that might be slightly longer and you might want to talk a bit more, but then go and chat to the whole company. And I've told everyone in the company to expect this. And if they haven't reached out to you, reach out yourself and do a 5-minute, 10-minute, just who are you? What do you do? And what's your role all about? So that they're starting to get that kind of feeling. And then we're also trying to do social stuff throughout the week. So we're doing lunchtime yoga sessions. One of our team is amazing as a yoga instructor, so we're very lucky. We did a pub quiz last night and we're going to rotate who's running the pub quizzes. But just so there's that social interaction, and then just trying to get them access to everything they need and telling them it's fine to ask questions. There's no stupid questions. If you don't understand something, jump on a call, like all the things that would normally apply, but they're just all heightened, I think, because you're remote. So it's just being as supportive as you can.
Can you give them a buddy as well? So is there someone you can buddy them up with? They can just check in with on a daily basis to ask questions as well.
Yeah, great shout.
I'm getting people taking the mickey out of me from going connect, engage, and post now. So, I'm not sure how we're going to respond to this. I like the question though. So, non-profits in healthcare receive so much funding from dinners and large events in the US. What's your insight on adapting to the need of more fundraising, or at least needing to meet goals whilst these networking or fundraising events can't happen? I don't know if are we placed to answer that? Joe's going to answer it.
No.
Oh. Fundraising must be really tough.
Well, so basically, I get involved in various activities with charities on fundraising. And what we've been saying to people at the moment is, don't forget we're there. And don't forget at these times, we can all sit down and enjoy ourselves at a later stage, but at this particular moment in time, we still need your help. So the content and the engagement that you put out to people that have supported you in the past, it's important to reach out to them now. You have fun later together, but at the moment, the good work still needs to continue.
Absolutely. So this comes from Scott. What's everyone's thoughts on marketing communications going out on social channels that involve talking about COVID-19? How should it be approached? How can we build new leads and keep current relationships without scaremongering? It's just the default for everyone to go to at the moment, isn't it? Look at me, I'm working from home. It's that, oh God, I think we've probably done it as well, but you get over that so quickly, don't you?
Mm.
Any other good content ideas? I mean, my brain spends most of its time working on content ideas. But yeah, you kind of just don't want to do what everyone else is doing, do you? You want to go down something a little bit different or take it from a different angle, I think would be my advice. Or actually just steer clear of it and do something that will build, a different audience, people that are interested in a different subject. I mean, God, all you do is switch on the news and you get bloody COVID-19 all the time. So, I mean, I'm to be honest with you, my content strategy for this week coming is actually to do some more funny stuff, because I think there is a real need for that as well. You've got to be very cautious. I mean, I did debate around whether you could do some piss taking out of coronavirus, and I think it's still too early, but it won't be for long. We can probably get there at some point, I guess. But yeah, do you know what? Do something different. Think a bit left field would be my advice. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think you really need to avoid jumping on the bandwagon and doing the same as everybody else. For me, it's how can you be valuable in this time to your audience? So if you've got nothing that's really valuable to say, then it's okay to be a bit more quiet right now. It's a sensitive time. But actually, it's trying to think to your audience that you're trying to speak to, what is it that you can say that's valuable? How can you help them? How can you give them support? Them just seeing that your team are working from home isn't that exciting for them. So it's what is it that you can add that's valuable.
Unless you record the Zoom call and put it on LinkedIn.
That's great.
I'm personally taking I'm looking at it from two angles with the people that I talk to. So I've got kind of a private community, and there we're really talking about how we're feeling, but not kind of talking about COVID-19 at all, but just how we're feeling in the current change that we're going through. And more publicly, I'm putting out more posts, as you said, that's helpful, things that are going to be more practical. At the moment, if we think about it, our brains are kind of in this fight, flight, this fear mode a lot of the time. We're panicking, we've got brain fog, it's overwhelming. I don't want to add to the overwhelm. We recognize it, it's here, it's happening. How can we help people have some tools to help them cope as best they can? And so I'm not talking about it, but I'm giving them tools, practical hints and tips and things. And then carrying on with what I'd normally talk about as well. And like you say, trying to have some fun and lightness to it, because it feels very heavy.
Yeah, totally. I've got a question. I don't think anyone's asked this yet. And it may be just my mad mind, but are we in a situation at the moment where government has essentially put a very large sticky plaster over what's going on? So we're all in this kind of pause mode. And yet, just picking up on Mark's point around whether it's going to be a V or a U-shaped recovery, if it ends up being a U-shaped recovery and it takes longer, as soon as government take that sticky plaster off, and they will, and stop paying everyone's salaries and giving help to the self-employed, are we not kind of just getting to a point where we're saving disaster and more angst down the road? Because to my mind, that's the point at which companies will walk back into their offices out of self-isolation and go, hi guys, how was it all? Here we are. All of our clients aren't trading with us in the same way as they were when we left the door. We can't just literally walk out and walk back in and expect it all to be as normal. And is that the point at which companies start thinking, oh shit, we now need to start looking at our costs in terms of staffing and other things at that point? Are we all deluded at the moment into thinking that this is just going to bounce back, using Boris's term?
I think the answer to that question is yes and no. I mean, the fact of the matter is, it is a sticking plaster. It's a necessary sticking plaster. When we come out the other end, the world is going to look totally different. The flow and supply of cash will dry up for a short period of time until everything rebalances. So I think we've got to expect the worst, but also look at all the opportunities that come along with that. We are social beings. We need to be working and integrating and interacting with each other. If we don't, then it'll take a very long time to come back.
Different industries are going to be affected in different ways. Some people might have a pipeline that they need to generate, which takes months to build. We work with some clients that have 2-year sales cycles, and if they're now out of action for 4 or 5 months, that's going to be detrimental on the end of those sales cycles. Others are going to bounce back quite quickly. So I think it's a matter of kind of talking to your clients, talking to your suppliers, and just being honest and thinking, okay, this is going to be different when we get back, but what can we be doing while we're all sat around working from home? And really, actually, now's the time to really put some foundations in place for what that future might look like. None of us know what that future looks like. We can't predict it. So all we can do is use, experiences that we've got. And I suggest, things like, ensuring your website is ready, things that you might have put on hold, get them done now while it is potentially a bit quieter, so that when the taps do start turning back on, you don't have to think about it. Like, look at your user experience types work on sites, and just make sure that, everything's ready. And for certain clients, that's going to take longer. There's no doubt, but I think it's just about being as supportive as you can.
I totally agree. I've got one client that's got 10-year contracts in place, and they're not really feeling it as much, where other clients have still got work coming in today. They're completely online, and people are still purchasing, they're still buying particular types of products still. And so, like you say, it really varies. But I think it's almost like, take your eye off that. Yes, your strategy may change, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't be looking towards the future and what we might, start anticipating what we might need to do differently, but also get our house in order as well. Someone else asked a question that I think links into this, where they said, you know, how do you support your team when you come back into the office as well? But I think if you've got a good setup in place now and you're communicating, you're staying connected, you've got a focus, I think it's an easier transition once you get back into the office. And then it's about how do you call it out and create a space to have conversations around what the team need to readapt to being back in the workplace. But I think it's all built on this stage now, and having that communication in place as well.
I think also you get into a situation where you know, you have to look at this as an opportunity to smarten up your act. It's no good going into it and then expecting or thinking that you need to be exactly the same company when you come out the other side. It doesn't work that way. There are so many companies that will collaborate, maybe join forces. So I think, you know, expecting it to go back to the way that it was is completely futile. That's never going to happen.
Yeah. But
But it doesn't mean that it's going to be worse than that. It can be a whole lot better if you go into it with a very open mind, and you don't have the restricted communications that you have with your competitors and with your customer base that maybe you had before.
Yeah.
Business owners and individuals have got a very unique opportunity at the moment, which is press the reset button. We've now got, I don't know how long, let's say 4 weeks, to really think about what we need, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. This isn't like going on holiday where you can clear your mind and lay on the beach for 2 weeks. This is reset time. This is think about what's going to be real and what can we do coming out the room.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we've got 10 minutes to go. I think what we'll do, so there's a couple of things that I've noticed on this. There is, unsurprisingly, a ton of recruiters on here. So I think actually, Liv, what we might also do is do a recruiter specific webinar. Probably over the next week or so, we might just spin up a specific recruiter one. So I didn't want to make this totally recruitment because I wanted to make this more general. So I think we'll do that. Yeah, see, everyone's coming through saying, yeah, great idea. So I think we'll do that. We'll spin up. I keep on saying spin up. I don't know what, since going into isolation, what the hell's wrong with my vocabulary? Every bloody sentence I say is, oh, let's spin this up. Let's spin that up. Jesus, Mark, shut up. So with 10 minutes to go, I think what we'll do.
Have you learned to use the washing machine?
Yeah, I know. I don't know how to use that, Terry. Not a chance. So what I think we'll do is we'll just go back round the panelists with their last piece of wisdom or advice, or maybe if you, so Carolyn, I'm coming to you first, just to give you a little bit of pre-warning, or maybe you've seen a question in the Q&A that I haven't asked you guys that you want to touch on as well. So it might be a pearl of wisdom, last piece of advice, or a question that's been asked. Carolyn, over to you.
I have no clue. No, but I think now.
Putting you on the spot.
I would say a lot of people are talking about their teams, and I think that's absolutely the right thing to do. But also for those of you that are business owners, it's also what are you doing for yourself? So just think, and I think, you know, Joe said it earlier on about self-compassion and kindness, but also remember, I know when you're in a very senior position, whether running a business or you're a leader, it can feel bloody lonely. And we sometimes feel like we have to have all the answers and have all the solutions to the problems. And I think right now it's just make sure you're tapping into your network of other business owners and just get the support you need as well. So my question back to the group is, what are you doing to look after yourself as a business leader, as a business owner?
Nice challenge like that. Becky.
Yeah, I think it's just remembering that right now you need to be more human than ever before. You need to think about every action that you take and how you're going to be remembered afterwards. So whether that's with your clients or with your suppliers. So we're being super kind to all of our clients because we know that the problems that they've got, but we're also leveraging that and using that with our suppliers. So actually, just as a great tip that seems to be working really well for me, all the suppliers that I'm asking to be kind to us, we're doing that via phone call rather than email, making sure that we're having a human conversation and starting the conversation, asking how they're doing, telling them a bit about how we're doing, and actually framing it that actually we're doing the human thing right now and letting our clients pause. And then once we've kind of said that and kind of said that's the only human thing to do, then when you're asking them to help you, they feel like that's the only option they've also got. And it's reminding them that actually that really is the only option. We've got to all be helping each other right now. So yeah, have those conversations. Communication is what will get us all through this.
I think that's such good advice. Actually, pick up the phone, especially to everyone if you can, but especially suppliers, and keep them on side as well. Mark Robinson, there's a clamour, and I can't find. Are you actually on LinkedIn, by the way?
Yeah, don't look very good. You need to help me to set it up a little bit
better. Even people on the chat are asking to connect with you, but they can't find you. So
I'm there somewhere. We can send something out, I'm sure.
Exactly.
I think my experience comes from the dot-com crash back in 2001, 2002. At the time of the crash, I was running a business. It was ramping like crazy. We had a market cap in the hundreds of millions plus. 9 months later, that 120 million market cap was 1 million. And I had tried to take that on my own shoulders at the time. It was, and it was tough. What I didn't realise was that, I really should have built a support network. So it nearly drove me insane. If I had had the wherewithal to actually reach out, show my own vulnerability at the point, rather than putting on a brave face to everybody, then I would have got through that a whole lot better, both personally and the business probably. So I really would be reaching out and just trying to get the support. Whether it's not necessarily always right to go to your friends and relatives. If you can go out to peers, if you can just reach out to people, and a ton of people will be giving their time selflessly at the moment. So I just get out there, reach out, and at least get someone to sanity check your decisions and your thinking.
Love that. Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything's been really valuable. I mean, ultimately, sticking together is the key. I think we're going to see much more collaboration in the future. I mean, I'd always suggest that probably Becky would agree, our kind of world, we're very collaborative anyway, always have been. We do lots of talks and we share information. Ultimately, most knowledge is found on the internet anyway. So there's no big secret. So, we want to all work together. And I'd say, just going back to what I said previously, I think if we do anything in this period, it'd be just take a step back, build those foundations, just check, as Terry said, this is an opportune time to push the reset button. Some of us have been probably doing things that we didn't necessarily want to be doing, but they've just kind of fallen into it, and actually they might have ended, and it's time to think, were we good at that, or were we just doing that? And if we weren't good at that, let's not do that when we start again. So I think just kind of get those foundations and regrow.
Yeah, fantastic. Good advice. Joe.
Gosh, where to go with this? I mean, I think everybody said everything. I think the network is massively important, and collaborating with people. The world is going to be radically different when we come out of this. I mean, I've been doing quite a lot of conversations with people where we're talking about the very nature of work, what work is, and how we do it is going to be totally different. If the question is about you're managing remotely, and this is going to be maybe more of the future, I'm going to recommend this book. By the way, I don't get any commission from the publishers, the author, or Amazon, but it's my little Bible. It's brilliant. So that's my tip.
Who's the author?
It's Penny Pullman. Penny Pullman, easily found on Amazon, but it's just full of ideas about working remotely, and more of us are working remotely, flexibly, and it's the way of the world. It's the future.
Yeah, brilliant. And Mr. Terry Hewitt.
Last but not least, interesting to note that the request coming through on LinkedIn has actually gone berserk for me, which is really nice, actually. So, Mark, you need to get your act together.
Someone's found you, Mark.
Someone's found you.
Someone has found you. Yeah.
Just a very quick story that actually shows just how resilient and how wonderful human beings are, and our ability to take entrepreneurialism to the next level. One of my clients, a small graphic design company called Geo Media in Maidstone, phoned me up on Monday this week and said, we're going to build a website. We're going to call it mypubtakeaway.com. They registered it, built it, and launched it in 3 days. That's what we should be doing, is looking at opportunities in the market space and fill our mind with positive things. Yeah. Accentuate the positives and just do things. Just get on and do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, So for my last word of wisdom, I saw this little video on LinkedIn this morning, and it just really resonated with me. It was from I think she was American. She was talking about a guy that had tried to set up from scratch in real estate in a high net worth area, and he wasn't getting any traction, couldn't get any customers whatsoever. And then suddenly all of the bin men in New York went on strike, and everyone's trash was piling up. And this guy thought to himself, I'm just going to hire a private contractor to come around and clear all the trash. I'm not going to tell anybody that I'm doing it. And so he did it, and word got out that it was him. And a load of people came up to him and thanked him so much for doing that. And, you know, can we pay you? Can we pay you? And he said, no, I don't want any payment, but when you're selling your home, just remember me. And the next year, £1.2 million in profit. So give, don't sell. And now, in my view, is the perfect time to be doing that. And hence putting on, we've just gone into webinar crazy mode, to be honest with you, because, well, not only is it actually very sociable, especially when you get a panel like this, and so it keeps you sane as well. But it's just a great thing to do at the moment. And if we can give advice and help people, I've been through not as many recessions as Terry, but I've been through a couple as well. So I think now is the time to support each other, stay together, and help more than anything else. And so, oh, look at that for timing, 4 o'clock on the dot. So thank you to everybody on the panel. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for giving your time, your support, your advice to people. We will spin up a recruiter special. Spin up, what am I talking about? Spin up. We'll put on a recruiter special probably next week. So thank you ever so much to everybody who's attended. The numbers were crazy. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you all on the next one. Goodbye for now.
Stay safe.
Be safe. Be safe.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.